welcome to Business Unusual. And of course, we've been talking about the kingdom business person and talking about the future that we find ourselves in now. How does this person engage? We are talking about COVID-19, life after. How do we reboot everything? How do we operate in this new environment?
Yep.
Now, we do not know whether this COVID will be over or we will learn how to live with it. That one, we are not sure yet.
Yes.
The only thing we can be sure, things will never be the same. That's something you can take to the bank. Life will never be the same. So question is, how do we live with this new normal? My name is Susan Opio.
And my name is Charles Opio.
Now, what we need to ask is, how do we re-engage life? How do we prepare ourselves to live in this new normal? How do we come to a place of saying, yes, life has just been redefined. Now we need to know how to engage.
Yes.
How do we do that?
It's almost like telling people, you know, the life you used to know doesn't exist. You've woken up from this dream. How do we get into this? How do we engage this new terrain? It's like being dropped in a new country.
I think the best to explain is what we've always said in this series. We've always talked about Noah. He comes out of the ark and it's like, my friend, this is different. I think that Noah is the first person who should have said it's business unusual.
Completely. Because think of where Noah is coming from. It's good you've used Noah. Noah, for years, has only one occupation. He is a builder of an ark. 120
years.
Thank you. He has built his ark. He's been the most successful ark builder.
It's a wonderful activity.
Wonderful success. Complete. It worked exactly as he said it would work. It is now complete. The flood is over. We have now come out. God says, no more rain, no more floods. Question, what does Noah do? How does he re-engage?
I think we never sit down to ask ourselves. When God opened the door for Noah, and Noah stood out there, because he didn't come out running.
No.
You know how you stand outside the ark just to reorient
Everything
yourself?
has been wiped out.
You're looking and asking yourself, listen, everything has been wiped out. And he's looking and asking himself, okay, wait, do I go north, south, east or west?
And you can't say, I'll build an upgraded ark. God has just informed you clearly. There will be no flood, meaning we will not use an ark again.
Now, that's where we find ourselves. We are actually, like we have reboot to the time of Noah. Looking at life and wondering, here is a whole new landscape. And now you have to ask yourself, how do we operate in this new place? Because irrelevance is when you go back to operate the way you operated before.
Noah could have gone back into the ark. And then?
And stay there.
You stay there. Be stuck.
And hope something will happen.
And just become redundant and useless. Because nothing is going to happen. So what we want to give right now is what I would like to say, almost some guidelines, some signposts. They are not definitive. What we've learned over time is that you can only have guidelines when there's a scenario that is not very clear. You have some guidelines that can assist you to adjust as you go. And these guidelines are built on research we have done on the basis of some of the things that have happened, some of the things that are emerging, and also what you begin to see unfolding. So in other words, God says to Noah, seed time and harvest shall remain, summer, rain. So he's been given a sort of an insight that there will be weather patterns and seasons. What does he do? He decides to plant a vineyard. So how you engage next in this new environment is going to actually be the determinant between success and failure. Because like we've talked about the work, we've talked about the education needed, the mindsets needed, but we are forgetting you're an individual. With all the things we are saying, what's your transition? How do you transit into this new we've been describing? What are some fundamental things you need to do to make it possible for these new things you're beginning to do to work?
And I think we are saying that you have to sit back and think of the new place you're going into. You have to sit and start asking yourself questions which will help you go into this. And that's why we're talking about guidelines. These are just guidelines. And you're going to talk about 7 things which you can say, look at this, and of course we always tell people, get more.
Get more.
7 is not the
You're
limit.
not limited.
But at least in this series we're just talking about this, so that we can give you a guideline of how to reboot.
Yes.
Maybe you can start us off?
Yeah, I think the first thing we want to do is that do not expect anything to go back to normal. This is force of habit.
Yes.
We like resets. Okay? So force of habit is for us to think, how quickly can I get back to?
Yes.
How quickly can things get back to normal? It's not going to happen. Accept that now.
Yes.
You know, let's take any scenario. Let's take school. You've gotten used to studying from home. It's an experience you didn't have before. Now going back to classroom is going to be a bit difficult.
Yes.
Because you're not used to that normal anymore.
And you have introduced the students to a new normal.
Thank you.
That they find better.
And more efficient.
And more efficient.
Now you're trying to make them go backwards.
Yes.
It's not going to help.
So when you talk about school, for example,
yes.
and you're saying, now let's take the same children who've been home, studying from home
yes.
for the last 1 year.
Exactly.
Now you're telling them, let's go back to a class.
Yes.
Now in this class, you're coming to give them the rules that if you watch our previous broadcast, we said that these rules were set by a people who are raising workers.
Exactly.
Factory workers.
Exactly.
Now those rules do not apply to a Gen Z. A
yes.
generation that is arising
now,
that is
arising
the
now.
millennials are
yes.
people who are telling you, my friend, what you're trying to tell me does not make sense. Actually, just for me to say this, the students have been wondering how to tell their parents, to tell the teachers,
yes.
or anyone who cares to listen. This thing is not working.
And let me tell you, trying to go back just with students is actually potentially dangerous. Because now we are going to have to start dealing with the new trauma.
Yes.
We're going to start dealing with withdrawal symptoms. We're going to start dealing with the drug problems.
Yes.
Why? Because I've learned how to manage my own time. I've learned how to be efficient at responding in a particular way.
Yes.
Now you want to force me back into a routine. I will rebel.
And this is the generation we are talking about. And soon, like we said, we are going to talk about the different generations.
Yes.
And the Gen Z.
Yeah.
The young generation right now
yes.
who've been wondering, why do we do school the way it's done?
And
they have been asking questions.
Exactly. They are already the people who query outcomes, not processes.
Yes.
They say, why are we doing? Not what are we doing?
Why are we doing it the way you're doing it?
Exactly.
Because the way you're doing it, you're actually limiting me.
Yes.
Because when I worked from home, I'm in class from this time to this time.
Yes.
But in the free time, I did something different.
Exactly.
In your free time, you're taking me to do something that you want,
yes.
not something that
benefits me. Now, when I was online, I could track my own progress.
Yes.
I could move ahead. Now you're forcing me to stay at a certain point.
Yes.
I'm used to working now on my own. Now you're forcing me to work in a group.
So now talking about that, just looking at the school scenario, can we start also preparing for the next crisis?
Yes.
Because that will be a crisis.
It will be a crisis.
Where you have students telling you, I'm not coming. I'm not going to do the way you're telling me.
Exactly.
Let's do it online. The way we've done it, it has worked perfectly.
Let's take business.
Yeah.
Open up your shop back to normal. Where are the clients?
Okay.
They're not going to come. Yes. You're opening as normal. They no longer behave normal.
Yes.
They no longer show up at the shops.
Because
they no longer hang around.
I think when you're talking about that, most people understand that now we are getting used to online shopping.
Yes.
But you are not engaging in any online activity. You want people to come and you say the business is bad.
We spoke about that in the other session about new media literacy.
Yes.
You didn't get any new media literacy. And you're sitting in your shop saying business is bad.
People are not coming.
Because you're going back to normal.
Yes.
It's like saying, let me tell you people, what has just happened is that we have just been transported 10 years ahead of time.
Oh, yes.
Now, think like that. Think as if you were asleep for 10 years.
You wake up and this is the life you're fighting.
Yes, and you want to continue living where you left off 10 years ago. Think about how everybody has grown, everybody has changed, everybody has advanced, but you still want to go back the same way. Even the person you used to call you boy is now 10 years older.
Yes.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work that way.
Something has shifted completely. So we have to be careful that when we go back, listen to this guideline.
Yeah.
Accept that you cannot go back to normal. That place, that door is closed.
I think we have said that so many times.
Yes.
And we are trying to say that come to a place of adopting a rebuild rather than a resume mentality.
Yes. A
rebuild rather than a resume. Maybe you can talk about that.
This is the issue. Remember, You see, if you listen to all our series, you'll keep seeing intertwining. They are not in isolation, okay? Rebuilding simply means this. I am not trying, again, notice our words are talking about the future, not the past.
Yes.
In the past, rebuild means to take it back where it was. In the future, rebuild means make it useful for where it's going.
Yeah.
In other words, I am rebuilding not the way it was.
I'm looking at the future,
yes.
and therefore now when I build, it's
yes.
for the future.
Exactly.
It's for something I have seen.
Yes.
Let's take a case in point.
Yeah.
Our schools.
Simple.
Somebody has to rebuild, not resume.
Exactly.
Don't take students to where they were. Come to a place of saying, now we've seen the future,
yes.
and now we are actually building something that fits
yes.
into where we are going into.
I think it's important to understand a very important issue.
Okay.
Human beings do not have a rewind button.
Okay.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You know, rewind means back.
Yes.
Now let's move forward. No, we don't. Once we've gone past a certain place, we cannot rewind.
Don't want to go back.
We cannot rewind.
It's the same way now, maybe you can say that.
Yes.
This person is in class, or let's talk about high schooler.
Yes.
They are in grade 11, for example.
Yes.
You're telling them, go back to grade 2.
Can't.
Rewind. They can't. That's
can't
what
happen.
You mean, that I can't rewind.
Literally.
I can't rewind.
I can't rewind.
So when we talk about a season that just found us, because
yes.
that's what I'll call it,
yes.
here is COVID, and we always say that COVID is what we call it in the earth.
Yep.
We as believers know a timeline in God when God said, listen, if I leave these guys the way they are going, you know, let me just have
allow
this
something to move
that
in the earth.
disrupts their lives,
exactly.
brings them to this place of something has happened.
Yes.
You find yourself, this is how now we are working.
Exactly.
Now you're telling people, 1 year down the line, let's go back to where we were.
No.
It can't happen. Like you're saying,
yeah.
you can't rewind.
Listen, pastors, church can't go back to where it was.
It can't.
You cannot say, let us just resume meetings. People discovered something important. I will not mention who, but an elderly person told us a very interesting story. She was used to going to church for years, sitting on the bench. It was normal. 50, 60 years. It was the
only thing I knew.
Yeah, 60 years attending church regularly. Then Corona happened. Because she's an elderly person in her 70s, they were told to watch the service on TV.
Yes.
So she began to watch the service on TV in the comfort of her seat, with her tea,
yes.
with no pressure, with water to put her feet in.
Yes.
So when church reopened and she went to church day 1, she said, I'm not going back. Because
that's
she cannot rewind.
Year-old.
Yes.
That is not a Gen Z.
She cannot rewind.
That is a silent generation.
Exactly.
And they're telling you, I'm not going to rewind. I'm not going
yes.
back to... And you see, when we talk like this, there are people who feel almost like you're saying... It's almost like, no, you're bashing the church. You're saying, listen, 2 institutions that need to wake up.
Yes.
Our schools and our churches.
Absolutely.
They need to wake up and just catch up with time.
Now, remember, we said it's a guideline, right?
Yes.
Now, if you want, resume. And let's see how long the resumption will work.
Yes.
Because you will realize suddenly that people were exposed to a different environment.
Yes.
And once that happened, you cannot force them back into the box.
You tell me that for the last 1 year, I've been watching church on TV.
Yes.
I've been going online and
yes.
shopping,
yes.
and my food is delivered.
Exactly.
We have even gone to a point where I call the doctor and they examine me on video.
Yes.
And they send my dawa to
there
deliver the prescription.
There you go.
This is the life you're used to. Now you are telling me that I
go
need
back
to
and
go
line up.
And shop. Why am I going to the supermarket? Let somebody else bring.
Simple.
I've just discovered the time I'm using to go, I could be doing something else.
Yes.
I think that is what we are saying.
So while many people are clamoring, let's reopen, let's go back, we have news for you. We'll reopen, but nobody will go back.
Opening we will.
Yes. We'll reopen, because if you are not thinking, before you reopen, think of how do I rebuild? How do I readjust? So that by the time I open, everything has shifted into a new place.
Yes.
It has to be the idea that that which I had cannot work where I'm going.
So we are talking about
yeah.
Adopt a rebuild
yes.
rather than a resume
yes.
mentality.
Exactly.
Anybody.
Yes.
Let's talk about anybody. Even the government. We are talking about 40% of their employees,
yes.
40 or 60% are above.
40% are above
50.
50.
Yes.
And so they can't work from home.
They
have to learn.
Think about rebuilding.
Yeah.
Not resuming.
Exactly.
Because you can't get these people back to the office.
What are the risks? They're too high.
Yeah.
You see? So those are part of the context we have to work in. So that's one important factor that we must understand.
A powerful one, and I think we need to get
that
hold
please
of that. Yes.
Adopt a rebuild, not a resume mentality.
Let's go to the second one.
Yes. The second thing is anticipate that it's going to take a long time to get things on track. Rebuilding is a process.
Yes.
It's not magical. Reopening is instant.
Yes.
Rebuilding is a process.
Okay, let's talk about just that one statement you've said.
Yes.
We are going to reopen the economy.
Yes.
We are going to open and say schools have reopened.
Yes.
The institutions are open.
Exactly.
This is open, but rebuilding
takes time. Rebuilding means adjusting, anticipating, checking what is working, what is not working. The things that we thought were going to operate are not. What is necessary, what is not. So realize that will take time. So we are not going to listen. It takes a long time to build and a very short time to destroy. So this is the problem, and this is what we are not seeing. It can take you 10 years to build a building, depending on the technology you use. It can take 10 hours to demolish it.
Yes.
To rebuild it again will not take 10 hours. So Corona's demolition squad has demolished 10 years of our life.
Call it 100.
Or more.
Because when you talk about schooling, when you talk about the church mentality, the ones that have been shattered, those are 100 of years.
So the idea that you're going to rebuild it in the same window of time it took to destroy it is not going to happen.
So when we talk about, for example, let's even talk about church.
Yes.
Now, if you think about it, everybody talking about church thinks that we are saying that come back with masks.
Yes.
Have sanitizers at the entrance.
Yes.
And what else are they?
Yeah, they think that is return.
And there's the temperature check. That is it.
Listen.
That's what we're talking about.
Those are tools for rebuilding.
They are rebuilding. We are talking about coming to a people who have just come and realized, wait a minute, I've just been listening to one voice.
Yes.
When I sat at home and watched that TV, I could just scroll and see different people in different nations
saying different
talking things that are addressing my situation.
There you go.
How will you rebuild that?
Yes.
Because when we talk about trust, we are saying that these are people who should know, yes, you're called of God with a message for a particular group of people.
Now here's the thing.
Yes.
And that's a dangerous statement you've just made. You are called to God
by God.
By God to a what? A particular group. If that group outgrew you, you're redundant.
In this season.
You're redundant.
And it's possible.
If you didn't grow while they were growing, you have a problem.
Because there's somebody who could have sat waiting for a resume.
Exactly.
Instead of building.
Exactly.
You are not building yourself, but the people are.
Yeah.
So when they come to church day one and they listen to you and say, listen, in those 8 months, I have grown.
You can't still be telling me what you used to tell me.
Yeah.
Now I know more. Here's the problem, because let's get our mind away from the idea that when people stayed home from church, they went on pause.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, they went on pause. They don't hear God. They don't listen to anybody. They don't do anything. They are waiting for you.
They are waiting to resume.
I've had pastors say, people are missing nothing. Stop giving yourself this very valuable position you don't have, and I'm speaking as a pastor.
Yes.
If you do not have value, when they return, they are gone.
Yes.
Accept it, because the reality is very simple. It's like you are a teacher of a particular class. You taught them the first part of that syllabus. Okay? Then they were away for 8 months. Your assumption is they were doing nothing.
They went and finished
They studied the entire syllabus and learned the next one and the next one.
Now when they
come back, you say, let's go back here.
They tell you we've
done
that.
Tell you, my friend.
We've been there.
You're talking to the wrong crowd.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about.
So when we talk about anticipate that getting things on track will take much longer than you might have liked, we're talking about coming to a place where you have this family that you had pre-COVID.
Yes.
There was a family that came on Sunday and we were all going together.
Exactly.
Until now you realize, wait, we have just entered different buses.
And you have to start asking yourself. And I think there's a reason we are speaking to ministers here.
Yeah.
I think so. Listen, you must also start asking which of your messages are now irrelevant.
Yeah.
What did you preach before that COVID wiped out? What did you say to the people that cannot longer hold water?
That's a good question.
When COVID comes, because they can query you.
Yes.
You cannot start another healing meeting when during COVID you were silent. Something is wrong with that order.
We talked about analysis and we talked about
design thinking.
Design thinking?
Yes.
When you have to sit down and start telling yourself, wait, analysis. And now for ministers, your imagination is going into the heart of God.
Yes.
And downloading a pattern from God.
That's why rebuilding will take.
What is relevant?
So the question should have been, during the gap, were you rebuilding already? Or are you waiting for resume to start rebuild?
No. Do not
that is dangerous. You better be in the rebuilding process now. Already, By the time people are resuming, you have built.
Yes.
You're ready for the new. That's why anticipate that it will take time, because it will take time for people to orient with you again.
Yes.
It will take time for people to understand where they are going. It is crucial.
I think this whole thing, if you hear us, we are talking about going back and study Noah. And always have that. You know, when you talk about imagination, where you sit and ask yourself, Noah is here telling you we need civilization.
Yes.
We have said that before in our broadcast, that we are the carriers. As the body of Christ, we should be the carriers of the new civilization.
Yes.
Now, you realize that is a process. And that's what we are saying. It will take longer than you might have thought.
Exactly.
That's the second thing.
That's the second thing.
The
third thing is a term I want to call reboarding. Reboarding. Reboarding means treat everyone like you have never met them before.
Okay, explain.
Your clients, your staff, your members, whatever they are.
Yes.
Because people have gone through processes that have changed them.
Yes.
They are now somebody else.
So it's almost like you're saying our first meeting is like almost an orientation.
Yes,
I also reintroduce myself because you could have
also changed.
The way I saw you before could have been a time of growth.
Yes.
So when I meet you, I need to reintroduce.
Exactly.
I love that. Reboarding.
Reboard people.
Yes.
Because remove the idea that they are who you used to know. People have gone through experiences, some traumatic.
Yes.
Some exhilarating, some eye-opening, we don't know.
Yes.
So it is time to treat people as if you're meeting them for the first time.
Yes.
Reintroduce yourselves. Readjust.
Yes.
Hear people's new position of function. Especially if you've not been in connection over the process.
Yes.
You need to reorient. Why this is important, let's work backwards. When COVID started, many couples had to reboard.
Oh, yes. I think, you know, when people said, welcome on board,
yes,
this marriage,
yes,
and you continued and became,
exactly,
you know, you saw this as you're normal,
yes,
then something happened and you're like, wait a minute, it's a time for reboard.
Yes, you've been at work so long, you normally leave at this time, you come back at this time, I thought I knew you. Now that we're at home, we had to reboard.
This is reboard.
Reorient.
Yes.
Readjust.
And this happens for everywhere.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what we've talked about. And again, going back to the ministers again.
Yes.
This is also another point.
Yes.
Reboard.
Reboard.
Give again your vision.
Yes.
Where is God taking you?
What has God told you now? What is the new direction?
Yes.
And let the people also respond and tell you, yes, that's where we are going.
I hear that is where I'm going.
That's true for me.
Yes.
Because that tells you that in that reboarding, you'll have to realize some people don't belong back and accept it.
And I think that's accepting that, wait a minute, not everybody who was is going to continue.
Yes.
Could be a time of saying, wait a minute, it is a time to release with love.
Yes.
With love.
Yes.
Including employees.
Absolutely.
You are in a business. I think it's time to look and say, yes, I can tell you.
Yeah.
As much as I would love to work with you, it's time to release you.
And reboarding is interesting.
Yeah.
Reboarding sometimes means we were perfect for that phase. So there are two things that happen. Now, we're not saying, listen to us carefully. Let's take God's different scenarios.
Okay.
In marriage, there's no reboarding. You've been together. So this doesn't apply in reboarding. Don't quickly say they said now you are not compatible now.
No, reboarding means we said it.
Yes.
Reintroduce yourself.
Reintroduce.
Start.
Yes.
Yes.
But there are certain relationships that post that scenario, you no longer can go in the same path.
Oh, yes.
That was the parting shot. You just didn't know it.
You're not enemies.
You're not enemies.
You just cannot.
What brought us together
place,
that made us perfect for each other, whether in business, whether in church, whatever it was, that world no longer exists. Because it no longer exists, we no longer require to go together where we were going. Because we arrived.
Yes.
We each now, in this season, we found new journeys, new dimensions, new directions. There are people, for example, who prior to this, in the bonding with their wives, during COVID realize that they don't need their partners.
And now I can work with her.
There you go.
We're talking about reboard. We're talking about reboard your clients, your employees, and more so
your
as a family. Reboard. Ask yourself, do we know each other well?
Yes.
When it comes to clients and employees, you need to ask yourself, are we still together? Are we still compatible? Now, welcome back each other like it's the first time you've met them. That's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
When we continue talking about these things, that's why we are calling it business unusual. Keep tracking.